All right, today we're going to be talking about the Mount to Coast T1s. For the record, I am not affiliated with Mount to Coast or any other running shoe brand for that matter at all. What I did was I went down to my local running store, Ogden Running Company, and they helped me pick out a pair of trail shoes for the summer. And this is what we landed on. What's interesting is that I was getting bombarded with their ads. Anywhere I went on the internet, social media, any website, I was getting their ads. And it started with their road shoes probably 9 months ago. And I was interested, but I never ended up buying any. And so as soon as they came out with a pair of trail shoes, I thought it was finally worth giving them a try. So I went ahead and bought these. And so these are my unbiased opinions about this running shoe after we're getting close to 200 miles. I think we're at about 185 miles in these shoes. So first off, let's talk about price. At $180, these are slightly more than the average running shoe, which I think is actually quite interesting that they were able to keep these affordable. You look at some of the other brand new running shoe brands out there like Speedland, they're coming in the upper 200s and even 300s for their running shoes, which you kind of expect given that they're innovating and they're trying something new. These guys also did quite a few new things, but they were able to keep their price relatively low, which I very much appreciate. So $180, they're not cheap by any means, but they're not that far away from an average price. So my goal today is to help you decide whether or not you think $180 is worth it for this pair of shoes, and if they are the right pair for you. So let's jump into the fit and sizing. I wear a size 9. I ordered a size 9 and it fit fantastic, like absolutely perfect. The length was spot on. In terms of width, these aren't slim shoes by any means, but they're also not wide. And contrary to the shoes that I just came from, the Topo Athletic Mountain Racer 4s, I think, they have a wide toe box. And so this was not wide, but it's also not narrow. Like I said, it's kind of in the sweet spot in that mid foot, but it also comes to a point. And so if you look at Topos, they're very rounded, and this is not rounded. Like it comes to a solid point here. They're not rounded in that sense. So in terms of fit, if you have really wide feet, these might not be the shoes for you. I mean, like I said, they're not slim, but they're definitely not wide. And if you don't like your toes kind of coming to a point, and like these shoes do, maybe look elsewhere. But it didn't bother me at all. So anyways, now moving on to the weight of these shoes. For a size 9, they are 9.2 ounces, and that is definitely lighter than average. These are not the lightest trail shoes on the market, but they're dang close. Like they feel light when you pick them up. They feel light and nimble when they're on your feet. Like they definitely did some work to make sure that these shoes were light, given that Mount to Coast caters to ultra runners, both road ultra and trail ultra runners. And they know that if you're gonna run, more than a marathon, you're gonna want the lightest shoes possible, even a marathon. But anyways, I'm getting away from the topic. So weight, fantastic. And so with the weight being so light, there's usually some trade-offs. And so let's move to the area where a lot of running shoes will cut corners to try and cut weight. The outsole. Mount to Coast went with a Vibram Mega Grip outsole, which I will always support. Vibram does a fantastic job, and this is no exception. These shoes have a solid grip here, a good amount of protection. There's only small parts here that have the EVA material that's exposed for sharp rocks and sticks to go through. So you're very well protected, and in terms of grip, absolutely fantastic. In terms of durability, Vibram always delivers, and this shoe is no exception. Like I said, I'm approaching 200 miles in these shoes, and there is very little wear and tear. I mean, this is where I usually see wear and tear, right here and then back here, and you can tell that they've been worn, but I mean, I'm very impressed with the durability, but that's to be expected with a Vibram outsole. So you know, like I said, there's usually trade-offs with the weight. There are no trade-offs here. Like this, the outsole is fantastic. Now let's move to the midsole. The midsole has a drop of 36 millimeters in the heel down to 32 millimeters, so 36 to 32, which gives you a 4 millimeter drop, which is, for me, an absolutely perfect sweet spot. I enjoy the 0 drop, but I can also run in kind of like the 8 to 10 millimeter drops. But to me, the sweet spot has always been somewhere between 2, 3, 4, 5 millimeter drops, and this sitting at a 4 millimeter drop is right in the Goldilocks zone for me. So I absolutely love the drop here, and this midsole is made out of what they're calling LightCELL, which weighs 50% of EVA while offering 45% more energy return. At least that's what their website says. And I absolutely loved this midsole. It felt cushioned but not pillowy. It was responsive but not necessarily bouncy. And there was some stability here without it being too rigid. And not only is this midsole made out of some sort of material, this LightCELL material, that's supposed to be better in terms of it weighs less and it's also more responsive, it's also supposed to last longer. And I can attest to it. These shoes feel the exact same way as they did when I first put them on in terms of the midsole. Like I have nothing bad to say about this midsole. I am absolutely blown away. Once again, they were supposed to have trade-offs here. There's supposed to be something here that is a trade-off given that they are cutting weight, but I cannot find anything. In fact, I actually like it better than most midsoles. So I'm going to call this entire part of the shoe from here down the Goldilocks. It's all in the Goldilocks zone. It's not too hot, not too cold, it's just right. It's not too firm, not too soft, it's just right. It's not too responsive, it's not completely dead, it's just right. Like I feel like they absolutely killed it in the technology here. I'm very satisfied with the technology here. So moving up from there, looking for more trade-offs here in terms of weight, we've got the upper. The upper is actually really well built, especially back here in the heel cup. I absolutely love the heel cup. No issues here, or it's also called the heel counter. No issues here, absolutely loved it. Moving to the front of the shoe, like I said, you kind of come to a point here. You've got good protection for your toes, and this material right here is incredibly breathable, and it seems to be really durable, because I've had shoes elsewhere where my foot bends right there, I get wear and tear where the fabric right here starts to unweave or completely fall apart, and I have no signs of that anywhere. And with it being so minimalist, like you can see the sunlight through here, like there's not a lot of material here, and so I expected, I don't know, to see some issues, and I am seeing no issues with the upper. But, and here is where I have mixed feelings about the shoe, and it would be the lacing system and the tongue. So they have their proprietary tune fit here. At least I think it's proprietary. I don't know. That's what they call it, tune fit. And so it's essentially Solomon's quick lace system, but they cut it in two. So you can tighten the forefoot, not quite in the toes, but you can tighten this forefoot area with the black laces, and then these white laces you can tighten towards the back of the foot. And to me, that's kind of gimmicky. Like I don't think that you are really making that big of a difference when you split it up like that. I never wanted something like that when I was running in Solomon running shoes, and it's essentially the same thing. So to me, it's kind of like nice, I guess, in some ways, but I never really touched the black laces, if I'm being fully honest. Like when I first put them on, I kind of tightened them, but then I just kind of loosened them back, and then I've just left them tucked in, the other black laces like that, and I haven't really touched that ever since. So when I put the shoes on and off, I use the white. But like I said, I never really needed that in the Solomon shoes, so to me, like this whole tune fit, it's whatever. But here's where you kind of get some issues, and it's because of the tongue. The tongue is extremely thin. Once again, because it's a light shoe, you're looking for trade-offs, and this might be the one part where I think they kind of messed up just a little bit, and it's the tongue. It's super thin, and if you're going to really tighten these down, or if you have a really tall foot, and like a high arch to the point where you're pushing up against these laces really hard with the top of your foot right here, then you might feel the laces digging into the top of your foot. I know that there are some people who felt that. I didn't really feel it. I felt like I was able to get a secure fit without going too tight to the point where it was digging into my foot, but every foot is slightly different. And so if you have really tall feet, like the top of your foot comes up high off the ground, that could be an issue here. So, and then one other small thing here is, and it only happened on the right shoe, where the tongue connects down at the very, very bottom of the shoe. When I would put my shoe on and then kind of pull up on the tongue and then tighten it, it would fold slightly, and I could feel it in there. And so I just kind of have to reach between, like underneath these laces, and unfold it, and then it was over. So that's not a huge problem. It was just kind of obnoxious and weird that it only happened on one foot, because I was always having to fix that. But once I started running, if it folded again, I never noticed it. So anyways, so the lacing system is like a B+ to me. Like not an A, not an A+. Everything else is absolutely fantastic. It's just the lacing system and then the tongue. But they were not deal breakers by any means. So before I get to my conclusion, I want to talk about the most subjective part of my review, which is the look of these shoes, the style and the design. I think these look cool. I think they look aggressive. I really like the black and white, kind of the minimalist look. I mean, they were going for minimalism with the shoe, so I think they hit that design very well. My one complaint, and it is a big complaint because I'm picky about the way my shoes look, I hate that they put their brand name right there. Like, I think that looks so tacky. And maybe that's just me, but like, if you make a really good product, you shouldn't need to advertise your brand name like a billboard on your product. Like, it felt like I was running around in billboards, like everyone knew the kind of shoe that I was running in. And you know, most running shoes, like Nike has a massive swoosh, but it looks like it's a part of the design. But when you spell it out like that, it takes away from the cool factor. At least that's what I think personally. And they have this like this little logo on the back, the Mount to Coast right here, and it's gray and it's just this little like mountain. Like, why not put that right there instead of spelling out your brand name like that? I don't know, it just looks tacky to me. Kind of ruined the shoe, if I'm being honest, in terms of style and design. And that's, you know, that's not everything, but it is something. So, I don't know. You guys can make your decision on looks and not necessarily rely on me, but I always like to weigh in. And so, in summary, my conclusion with this shoe is that this shoe is absolutely fantastic. If you've watched any of my shoe review videos, you know what I'm looking for is a shoe that is a natural extension of my foot. I do not want to worry about it. I do not want to notice it. I don't want to think about my shoes. These fit that in every single way. I have no problem recommending these shoes to anyone, unless you have a wide foot or a tall foot. Then you might want to try them on, order them, try them on, go to a store, try them on, and then buy them. Because I think you would know very quickly if these shoes are going to give you issues on the width and then the height of your foot this way. So outside of that, absolutely fantastic. Like, I was very skeptical given how new this brand is, given that they only have one pair of trail shoes. Like, I don't know, I was very skeptical, but I ended up being blown away, and these will be my shoes for the rest of the summer. I might rotate through some of the other ones, but in terms of the long summer miles, the long runs, the important runs, the ones that I want to run fast or far, these could be race shoes, these could be your everyday trainers. These check all the boxes for me. If they could fix the tongue and the lacing system, it would be basically a 10 out of 10. But because of that, I'd have to give it like maybe a 9 or something like that. But I don't know, that's nitpicking. Like, I absolutely love these shoes. So anyways, if that was helpful or interesting and it helped you decide whether or not these shoes are right for you, I hope that's the case, and I hope you'll subscribe to my channel, and I'll catch you in the next video.